No, it's something that, after your body of work, when you're done, people say, that's the legacy that you left.
My last title of the defense was against the most dangerous guy in the division, Robbie Lawler. And you saw what I did on his face. I landed a strikes record on his face, and that's a guy I liked. Wait till you see what I do to this clown. You will see December 14th why Marty Fake Newsman's even relevant right now. No one cares about him. The only reason he's relevant is because he attaches his name to mine. December 14th, only on pay-per-view. I'm detaching this little clown from my coattails. Yeah, I was looking forward to fighting this weekend. That's why the President of the United States is coming out. But there's a reason why I'm not fighting this weekend. You might want to ask this guy. He pissed hot. He couldn't pass a piss test. So that's the real reason. He had to let the EPO get out of the system for this weekend. No one cares about you, Marty. Stop talking, man. Pay-per-view buys are going out the window when you talk, man.
Just spoke.
Stop talking. Yeah, because I want people to hate me. That's a business model. No one cares about you. You're boring, man. People would rather watch flies fuck than watch you fight. Those similarities ended. He's taking my sloppy seconds. I beat everybody he beat, but I beat him before he beat him. So he had to come pick up the carcasses off the dead bodies that I left. So, he's not impressive. He sucks at fighting. And December 14th, I'm going to expose him.
What fight have I been in the UFC that you've seen as competitive?
Emil Mick. You barely beat that guy. He sucks. You gassed out in 3 rounds.
Who?
Exactly. Email Mick, a guy that nobody cares about. You gas out in 3 rounds.
Put your money up.
I will. I'll put it up right now.
Bring it out.
I'll put it up right now. 25 grand.
Is the money sitting in your private jet?
It is, buddy. I know you gave Glenn a heart attack for all those years you were ducking me, so don't worry. He'll be watching from hell on December 14th.
First of all, can you even read?
I went to D1 scrub. You went to D2. Good joke. Not everybody knows the Black Zillions team is notorious for doing steroids. Anthony Johnson, Rashad Evans, all the guys over there. Alistair over him when he was over there. Every time you talk, a pay-per-view goes out the window.
Shut up.
No one wants to hear you talk, bro. You're boring. No one gives a fuck about you. No one gives a shit, man. Not even your daddy, but don't worry. I'm going to be your daddy on December 14th.
December 14th.
Fake news. That's why your name's Marty Fake Newsman. No one cares about you.
Then you're gonna realize
shut up. Stop talking. Pay-per-view's going out the window. You couldn't draw money with a green crayon and a white piece of paper.
Be cool. Don't touch each other.
December 14th, yours truly, Colby Chaos Covington is going to be the face of the game.
Oh, Covington, a spinning back twist to open a cut and close the show.
You can't just wake up and eat Cheetos and live an unhealthy lifestyle. You have to live a healthy lifestyle, and you have to live this lifestyle 24/7. You have to make a lot of sacrifices to get to the top. Some guys aren't meant to be UFC champions, but I am.
Dana White made him sign that contract, and that'll be the last contract he signs because he's gonna be drinking smoothies through a straw after December 14th.
The UFC welterweight champion is Kamaru Usman.
Thank you, babe. Now I'm about to get freshed up.
This is the roughest I've ever seen you.
I know, man. I just let it go.
It's a good camp, right?
Yeah, it was a rough one.
Ladies and gentlemen, many bags do look alike, so please check.
Yours truly. Wow. We're staying good. There's no way I don't bring this world title back to them in the Oval Office.
What's happening, everybody? Ryan Thomas here on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, I appreciate the love and support from Buffalo Bills fans, Buffalo Sabres fans, combat sports fans, whether you're a fan of boxing and or my personal favorite, mixed martial arts. We got a big fight coming up, a fight that is set, a fight that hasn't been made official by the UFC just yet, but it's a fight indeed that everybody has been waiting for, myself included. Colby Covington getting another crack at the UFC welterweight title against one of the better champions in recent UFC history. Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman, was rattled off very impressive performances against Jorge Masvidal, as well as his former teammate Gilbert Burns, en route to defending that 170-pound welterweight strap, a title that was made great by guys like Matt Hughes and, of course, my greatest of all time, George St. Pierre. So the 170-pound division is always one that I follow with great interest. The welterweight division is a historic division in the UFC combat sports. It's done a lot of good for building the UFC into what it is today. And you could throw in, Robbie Lawler and his title reign, the entertainment fight that was ruthless. And when all these years later, that is still, to me, the best fight in UFC history. Robbie Lawler somewhat tried to one-up himself in his performance against Carlos Condit, defending the title there as well in a very, very close fight. But let's talk about the subject matter at hand. The subject matter at hand is that Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington 2 is set. That fight will be given to us, gift wrapped to us November 6th. It has been reported by plenty of mainstream MMA journalists, mainstream MMA sites, that Colby Covington will be getting another shot against Kamaru Usman the second time. And that will be on November 6th, UFC something, something, something. I've lost count of the numbers, but November 6th, that's we are supposed to be getting that fight between Kamaru Usman and Colby. Sorry about that. Sorry about the glitch there. What makes this fight different from the first? That's the big question. What makes this fight different from the first fight? I'm here to tell you that each rematch seen in UFC, each fight is different than the last. You could put two of the same guys in there 3 different times, and each fight is different. We've looked at that in every single MMA trilogy, whether it's Edgar versus Maynard, whether it's Stipe versus DC, even the John Jones-Daniel Cormier fights, 2 fights that John Jones won both of them, that we didn't get the gifted trilogy of combat sports history like we would have liked to have seen between DC and Jones. But that fight leading up to Jones winning it, the second fight in particular with Cormier looked very good prior to being caught and hurt badly in that fight. So what makes this fight different from the first? The fact that it is the second fight makes it different. That in and of itself does make it different. We have seen it time and time again. Anytime 2 guys fight one another for a second time, they learn a little bit more about one another. They understand a little bit more about one another in terms of the skill sets and the weaknesses of each fighter. But we're 2 years removed from the first fight. Back in, September of 2019, these guys already fought. And the fact that these guys have already fought and we know their strengths, we've seen these guys fight other fighters and look better than they did in their first performance against one another, I think this is going to be one of the better fights in UFC history, as was the first fight between Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington. Going into it, set the stage for the second fight. Going into the first fight between Usman and Covington, I realistically thought that we would see a grappling exchange between both Usman and Covington, a very methodical mixed martial arts fight where we would see all phases of the game, whether it was wrestling, Muay Thai clinch, jiu-jitsu, grappling, pummeling along the fence, the dirty boxing, if you will, that Randy Couture made so famous during his heyday. I thought we would see that between Usman and Covington, and instead the prowess of wrestling that both of these guys implement but both of these guys possess, I should say, was completely canceled out. Wasn't even attempted by Usman or Covington. We didn't see a wrestling exchange at all in the fight. It was a true 25-minute slobber knocker that ended with about 23 minutes into the fight, with about a minute and change left in the total bout time, with Usman getting his hand raised. So what makes this fight different from the first is that it's the second fight. And I know the loser of the first fight, being Colby Covington, is going to try to do things a little bit differently, to the point where I do expect to see wrestling exchanges, grappling exchanges, dirty boxing, trying to wear down Kamaru Usman. Colby Covington is known as the Cardio King. He was known as the Cardio King of American Top Team. Now he is Colby Covington Incorporated. You know, I think that this man, you take away the trash talk, you take away the build up to a fight, and you just look at the fights themselves. You say to yourself, Colby Covington to date, asking and answering the question, is Colby Covington Kamaru Usman's toughest test? You better believe it. When you look at every fight that Kamaru Usman has had outside of the Covington fight, Covington gave him the hardest fight. It was 23 minutes of nonstop action, and Covington obviously was stopped in that performance. But you better believe it, who matches up against Kamaru better than anybody in this division as it stands right now in the 170-pound weight class? It is Colby Covington. And I highly expect Colby to go into this one thinking that it is the last chance that he has at getting a title shot, and it is the last chance that he has at Kamaru Usman in general, if he does not get this done. Now, if he loses this fight, he'll never fight Usman again. He'll be 0-2 against him. If he wins this fight, then you have an even better opportunity for Usman and Covington to make even more money with one of the best trilogies that you could offer up to mixed martial arts fans and in the history of mixed martial arts, in the history of the UFC. So I also feel that there is a major factor in this fight that has to be discussed, and it is the fact that, yes, as I mentioned, these two guys fought in September, I believe, of 2019. If my memory serves me right on that, I don't have that in front of me. But both guys, with that amount of time away from fighting one another for another, opportunity, another crack at one another, how much better is Kamaru Usman? Realistically, how much better is Kamaru Usman? Kamaru Usman is far better than what he was the first time fighting Colby Covington. And dare I say it, Colby Covington even said it himself, Kamaru Usman's worst night at the office was still a winning performance. His worst night at the office against Colby Covington in September of 2019 was still a winning performance. Ever since that performance, the first fight against Covington, Usman has looked better and better each time he has fought. Yes, I would go as far to say the first fight with Jorge Masvidal was a little underwhelming, and nobody knew that better than Kamaru Usman, which is why Usman wanted to fight Masvidal again. They fight again. He knocks out Usman. Prior to that, he fights Gilbert Burns, a teammate of his, a guy that many in that gym believed that Gilbert Burns was the future of the 170-pound weight class, and a guy that was reported to have given Kamaru Usman a tough time in camp. Those are training camp rumors. You don't know what to believe, but at the same time, go as far to say that Kamaru Usman made easy work out of Gilbert Burns. There was some trials and tribulations early in that fight. He had to dig deep and, fire off a jab that he is known to throw, known to land, and is known to stun his opposition, whether it is Masvidal, whether it is Covington, whether it is Burns. Kamaru Usman is a dangerous man. He is a very dangerous man. And I put it in terms like this, working his way into the sport, he was a legitimate elite grappler. But what lacked in his game was a solid stand-up game, a diverse striking game, the ability to box with his opponents. He was so hesitant to box, so hesitant to stay on the feet. He was so easily able to implement his wrestling game that really the work on the feet came second nature, was second fiddle, as I should say. But training with guys like Rashad Evans, training with bigger fighters that can strike, forced him to learn how to strike, and he has looked phenomenal these last few fights, namely, as I mentioned, against Masvidal and against Gilbert Burns, and even the fight with Colby Covington. That was a striking bout, and a striking bout that he won, and yet Kamaru Usman's striking has gotten even better heading into this one than it was in the first fight. So how much better is Kamaru Usman? He is a complete fighter, and right now you can attest to the fact that maybe he's one of the top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in the world today. And I hate using that distinction because pound for pound to me doesn't really mean jack squat, but pound for pound means to me that you could go into the middleweight division and do work. You could go into, another weight class. Whether you're Francis Ngannou, you're not going into another weight class, but Francis Ngannou could go up against anybody and knock them out. Pound for pound, I would say he's number 1. Kamaru Usman could win a majority of his fights. Francis Ngannou could win a majority of his fights. There are a lot of guys in this pound for pound discussion in the years past, and Anderson Silva was in his prime. George St. Pierre was in his prime. Pound for pound means to me, at least, is that they could go into other weight classes and implement their game and, obviously achieve victory. So Usman is far better than what he was the first time. I would also go as far to say that Colby Covington is better than he was the first fight as well. But this is, make no mistake about it, on the show, I've talked about a lot of fights over my time recording this podcast the last 5 years. Make no mistake about it, the buildup between Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, part 2, will be unlike anything we have ever seen. You have a very provocative challenger here in Colby Covington that people love to hate or like to love. You don't really love to love Colby Covington. You like to love him. You love to hate him. Kamaru Usman has been a highly regarded champion in how he has carried himself within the sport of mixed martial arts. He's not everybody's cup of tea. He doesn't really talk well on the mic, but when push comes to shove and he puts those 4-ounce gloves on, his talent, his greatness shows. I cannot wait for November 6th. There is no better arena than to see this fight than that of Madison Square Garden Arena, November 6th. Big UFC November NYC pay-per-view. I'd love to attend this fight. I'm going to try to make that happen. But in the meantime, I will give you everything and anything MMA related, Buffalo Bills related, NFL related, fantasy sports related, Buffalo Sabres related. We are in the midst of the offseason for the Sabres. Can't really say it's going that great, but you got to keep the people informed. And mixed martial arts is one of my passions, one of my sports that I truly love. So I am very excited for this fight. This was a fight that I've wanted for quite some time since the first fight ended. Wanted the first fight very badly. Now we're getting a chance at the second one. And I think that this fight is going to be one of the best fights of the 2021 year. I'm Ryan Thomas. For all things combat sports, stay up to